Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I am joined today by a new friend of mine that I'm so overjoyed to invite onto my channel. Solreta, thank you so much for coming on to my channel today.
Thank you so much for having me too. And it's finally lovely to connect face to face because we see each other on Facebook and our different groups of friends that are interacting. So yeah, it's so lovely.
Yeah. Now, I invited Solreta on the channel today because I won't speak in third person. I admire your work. And I really feel like there are some really great pure mediums out there of a lot of pathways and channels. And I just feel like you're very authentic. And I reached out and I said, hey, let's connect because I love connecting, especially with inspiring divine feminine, divine masculine. And so I just felt like I felt called to connect with you. So I'm really happy to have you on my channel. And Kate, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background for those that don't know you and where you live and all of that?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for your sweet words as well. So I'm in Australia, so I'm in Melbourne, which is down the bottom part. And you can see we'll probably have every now and then we'll get wild cockatoos and parrots and things in the background. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that'll be lovely to see. But yeah, so I grew up always seeing things. So I was that kid that, my parents thought had the wild imagination. So going to bed at night, there'd be beings that had come into my room, or I'd have floating mandalas in my bedroom. So all sorts of interdimensional activity and ET interaction and experiences going on board craft and different things, as well as being connected to the fairy realm. So as you can see, close to the forest. So we have a lot of fairies out this way. So
Love
quite
that.
often you'll see orbs and things like that in the forest here. And with the fairies, occasionally they will actually show you what they look like in physical form. What I've noticed over the last maybe 1 to 2 years is that we're actually seeing them a lot more on camera. So it's like the fairy realms wanting to come in and wanting humanity to reconnect because there's like a brother sister kind of relationship with them. So I guess I was that kid that had that all those experiences, and I felt like with my family and with my parents, it's just so nice now to be able to capture evidence on camera, whether it's UFOs or the fairies. So I pop things up on YouTube and Facebook. But yeah, so I teach about how to see auras or how to sort of tune into these subtle realms. I work as a psychic, also work on Mason Jupiter on their channel, and I've worked on various other channels in the past as well. But basically, I just love connecting with my clients one on one. I love teaching. Yeah, and it's always changing, always evolving. Oh, and potions. So I also make potions. So these are a range of different herbal teas. Each of them are centered around different affirmations that we like to work on. So whether it's healing a broken heart, or people might be focused on attracting more abundance, or things like going on a vision quest. So yeah, that's been a baby of mine that just got released last year.
Okay, there's so many things you said that I could touch on, but the artwork on that is beautiful. Did you design those?
Yeah, so I've got six different blends and six different colors, and my designer and I had a real vision for it
Hmm.
for probably, I think it took us maybe about 2 years to actually get like the finalization. So you can see this one's got a little witch's hat on it, and just so much we poured into making sure that it was right and so that it embodied the actual essence of what we're trying to create. So, like with the abundance, for example, you can see there's like a little affirmation at the bottom as well.
So
So
beautiful. I really love the
thank you.
gold and then the colors incorporated with the white background is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I have them on display and look at them. They came out exactly the way that I wanted. So I'm really happy with them.
Oh, well, that's lovely. So they're all teas?
Yeah, all herbal teas, and they've got more of an alchemical background. So my background's actually in natural medicine. So I studied more than 3 years of natural medicine doing an advanced diploma of health sciences. So I wanted to interweave a touch of magic and alchemy, and I've also used a little bit of planetary influence with some of them as well. and
Yeah.
then just infusing good energy into them. But yeah, just having amazing feedback from people that are working with them, because we're working from a quantum physics point of view. So I've got people that have done like 66 days with the Vision Quest has been the popular one so far. So one of my gorgeous clients and customer, he's done 66 days, and he's noticed in conjunction with the How to See Auras course that I've popped out, he's actually seeing a lot more. And he has a gorgeous dog. He's been seeing his dog's aura too. So it's just, I really enjoy hearing the stories of manifestation that it's helped people to really hone in and focus on, as well as, seeing people see things for the first time. It's just, yeah, it's magic to be able to broaden horizons and to, I guess, expand people into behind the veil.
I love everything you're saying. And what excites me is that I feel like this is what we've been working towards for such a long time, probably even lifetimes. Like this is generational to get us back to where we once were. And so we have so much indigenous energy and the fairies and our ancestors guiding, and even other versions of ourself in the perceivable past as the indigenous beings coming through us now to enlighten humanity in some way with uh, herbal medicine and visualization and alchemy and energy and healing and all the things that we haven't had access to for so long. And now it's coming back, but like in real time. And I just get so excited when I see people like you that are innovative and you follow that and you produce something that is tangible and people can experience your work, your mastery. That's so cool.
I thank you. And I think, when we go through hard times, because the one that it was all created around was Heal a Broken Heart. So going through heartache, and I was, sitting in the bath, meditating, crying, just releasing and trying to, call my power back. And I'm like, if this is helping me, my little potion that I was sitting there focused on and drinking in that magic and, herbs and things that are designed to help to balance emotions and to, really provide that nourishment.
Mhm.
I just knew that I had to get it out to the world. So it was just, I guess, expanding on that little drop of inspiration and that idea. And yeah, I think when we get those moments of inspiration, you just know that it's something bigger than just what we're experiencing or going through ourselves. But I really resonate with what you're saying about that native and just ancestry and getting back to what we've worked on in other lifetimes. And it's funny, I've always been drawn to America, and it feels like a second home. So my grandfather was actually a US Marine, and we only found out last year that he was part Navajo. So my uncle's got stories that that he would share with him. So I got to go to Monument Valley and to Navajo country last year, which just, it felt incredible, but it was like two worlds kind of merging. And there's like different things I think that have sifted up to the surface since that experience. So I feel like this year is just going to be very different.
I bet. I feel like that's happening for people all over the world that are in alignment with that. Like if they're ready for it, sometimes even if people are not ready for it, it's happening just because it is. But it's like this overlap of different lifetimes we've had, and it's calling us back to other land that we once lived upon. Like that's why you feel connected to America. And
Yeah.
I love Australia. I've never been, but I'm like, I know I'm connected to Aboriginals and the land there and Atlantis, the connection to Atlantis. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful to see people kind of embracing and awakening to that. And you mentioned that you've had ET and UFO experiences. Would you like to share any of those or how old you were when that first started for you?
Yeah, so the earliest I can remember back to was 4 years old. And by the way, you'll have to come over. There's a few of you in our friendship group that want to come to
Oh,
Australia,
well,
so
let's
that'd be
put it together.
amazing.
I'm there. I'm there.
It'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was about 4 years old, and my sister and I would talk about this cupboard that was outside of our bedroom. And every now and then, because you could see it from the doorway, we didn't always like looking at it because we felt like things would come in and out interdimensionally. So I guess my sister, that for her, started to dissipate as we got older, but I was always still connected and, still would see things. So yeah, I've had so many different experiences, but one of the ones that came up in a regression I had too was these ant beings that were standing over, looking at me with their big eyes. So yeah, I've had a few interactions with the ant beings, and they were like teachers. So they teach about like telepathy, telekinesis, and keeping kids that are, I guess, within that multidimensionality. They help to keep us in touch with our gifts.
Mhm.
So yeah, every now and then you'll get upgrades, or you'll get like expansion and things happen psychically, or even like alterations with vision. And yeah, with some of them, it's almost like we've got some of their DNA integrated with us. So I've had other interesting experiences where other people have seen, I guess, like things change, or like more ships and things around. But yeah, my work's taken me to the States for lectures and workshops. It's taken me to Italy to film for Japanese TV,
Cool.
and to be an interdimensional, or I guess a light language communicator with the lady that was in Italy. And so Japanese TV flew me over there to speak light language with her.
Wow.
And what we found, it was so interesting. I think it was called something Detectives. I forget the English
Mhm.
translation of the show, but it ended up on YouTube too. But it was on their national network. But anyway, we had a Japanese, English, Italian translator, so he was quite amazing. And we found that like what she was describing and what I was describing, what we could see when we're talking light language, he was shocked. He's like, you two are saying exactly the same thing. So we had an amazing UFO experience over there too. But yeah, for me, I feel that the reason that I've kind of landed with all of this stuff happening is I feel like growing up as a kid, kids are not always believed talking about like what they see, or it's just passed off as imagination. So I feel like it's to hold a foot in each world and kind of bring that veil closer for people that are starting to wake up, or starting to,
Yeah.
be open to get in touch with this. It's like helping them to see or to step through that veil. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's where my path has led to, fairies and to all these different things. Because at first I didn't understand, why so many different areas, or why so many different things.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And have you had any experiences? I love fairies. I just did a video on my channel recently about fairies, and I always tend to be friends with fairy beings that are incarnated as humans. And I just love, love, love the fairy energy. And I feel it so much more significantly in the last couple of years than I have ever before. And we were just talking about how we're seeing the orbs, and they're making themselves much more known than they ever have before. And it's really cool because they're tricksters, but they're also like childlike because they're trying to entice us to be more fun and lighthearted and enjoy our life and not to be so serious. And I love their messages. But what are some of the things that you're seeing with them, or experiences that you've had with them, or things that they would like, you to tell people right now if they're listening?
Yeah. So growing up around the corner from where I am now, wasn't I didn't see an actual fairy like in fairy form until I was about 21. So since being a kid, I'd always seen the orbs, and the orbs won't sort of morph or turn into fairies unless they want you to see them. So it
Mhm.
was, yeah, 21 when I first saw my first like full figure fairy fly past my window, which was amazing. Really long being, long feet, not like kangaroo length, but like long enough to look a bit out of proportion compared to the rest of her body. She had a pointed little chin and these ears, like pixie ears that would fly back. So she was flying aerodynamically really fast. She was actually probably maybe about a foot long, so
Okay.
bigger than what I would have thought. So yeah, this is in the I guess we would call it the Dandenongs, or Mount Dandenong here in Melbourne, Australia. So it's almost like Fern Gully, the movies that I guess you and I probably grew up with when we were kids.
Mhm.
So the area is a little bit like that. So we do get lots of orbs and different things. There's also Bigfoot energy, or we call them Yowie over here as well, that
Mhm.
are around that sometimes we have interactions with. So yeah, it's more when you're connecting with places in nature. But yeah, we've had, I guess, the parts. Oh, there's a cockatoo out there. I just
I saw it
realized.
for a second. I
I
felt
don't know
like
if
I
you
was
can
going to shake
see
down a
him.
little. Are those wild
But
cats?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And
cool.
so with the cockatoos, actually, and there's a chicken just eating some of the seed that
Oh,
my
I
partner
see
put
it.
out
I see
as
it. I
well.
see it. That's so cute.
But yeah, with the cockatoos and what I was saying, like about nature, it's like the fairies. they're coming in to teach us to respect nature, but they
Yeah.
also come in because they love the cockatoos. So they like to also play like trickster like games with the cockatoos and with the animals and things. So
Mhm.
this branch here, I've actually got footage. I put it up on Facebook. I think it might be on YouTube too. But you can see like one fairy flying in over the top of the branch, the other one coming in under. And I've got other ones where you can see them even sitting in this room where they're filmed, just like when I'm on YouTube. And, people that are watching have like captured it and just slowed it down for me. And you can see the wings, you can see like the
That
head, the
is so
body.
cool. Okay.
Yeah. So they like lighthearted, kind of fun energy.
Yeah. Well, I would love to before I post this, I'll get the links for all of those so people can
Oh, I can send
see.
it. I'll send
Yeah,
it through to
I'll put them out so
you.
you
Yeah.
guys won't have to search for
Thank
it. Because
you.
now I want to see it too. So I'll get it and copy and paste it into the description, and then people can see what you're talking about because that's fascinating. That's so cool.
Uh, Thank you. And I think it's connected also to the plasma realm. So when we look at like plasma being fourth state of existence or of material or matter, I think a lot of this stuff that we're starting to see is we're just widening our spectrum. And that's what I teach in the How to See Auras course too, that we're really, we are taught that we see this much of reality, but actually the frequency that we're stepping into with this age of Aquarius, we're really expanding and starting to wake up to things that have lived aside us all along. And I think that's also what we're remembering and bringing through from the past lives and from some of these witch lifetimes and druidic lifetimes, that we were one. We were like a brother, sisterhood connected with the fairies. They were actually part of our family. So there's a deep, deep sadness that they felt when the veil fell and we got disconnected from them. So there's a huge joy and excitement from them in reconnecting with them.
Yeah, that's so cool. I resonate with all of this and you're right. Like I've seen in sessions with people times where they all were together, even Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever your
Yeah.
name for them is, and there's so many species. They laugh at me because they're like, it's funny you guys all call us the same word, but there's so many types of us. Like how many bird species there are, right? Same with us, like
Yeah.
we have different depending on where we live. But it's interesting what you just said because I do agree that our spectrum of our perception is widening. And I've been comparing it recently to dogs. And one of my biggest pet peeves is the scientific explanation or the misinterpretation of what animals can see. And most people say with certainty that animals are colorblind and they can't see or they see black and white, or they'll depict on a movie when they're as the animal's view and it's very narrow. And I'm like, you have no idea. They see not only way better than we do, but they see with their senses. So they're even more expanded. They see even more vivid colors. They see interdimensionally. They see the angel standing next to us that we can't see, or the dark energies that we can't see. That's why animals react to things we can't see. So I'm just like, how can you say that they have poor vision? And the same thing is happening with us. I feel, and the reason why I think that is, I'll just say, is because they don't have a way of measuring it. There's no way for us to put our eyes into the dog and like see how they see. At least we can't scientifically, but I'm sure we could if we merged with the animal spirit. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's why we're not accurately representing what their potential is. And I think the same for us. We have been told what we can see, but we're not tapping into what the senses and feels and touch and all of the other ones. So that was kind of my 2 cents there. How do you feel
Oh,
about that?
that really resonates because I've worked doing animal communication with racehorses and
Yeah.
dogs and cats and random animals like a ferret was one of my clients. But yeah, just I think you're right. It's like we don't have the tools to be able to perceive. And a lot of, I guess, the scientists that have looked into it are looking at it from like a 2D or a 3D measuring stick, when really, they don't know that like this much more exists on the measuring stick or on the spectrum
Right.
to be able to, truly analyze it. So I think we'll find out more in the future, but definitely the animals have a more expanded heart space. So I find when I'm talking with animals, and, when the kids were younger and we would go to the zoo and things, dropping your heart or dropping your mind into your heart space, you get all the elephants come up to you. And it's so synchronistic with you with the elephants in the background. But yeah, I feel that they have more what I would say is like a holographic communication.
Mhm.
So they're able to like show you pictures, immerse you like in their field or their story,
Mhm.
and they speak to my friend who I just interviewed on Maison Jupiter last weekend, Sarah Bignell. She has a radio station or a podcast called Yowie Central.
Uh-huh.
And we were talking about how with the Bigfoot and Yowies and Sasquatch, they have what they call mind speak. And so it's kind of like a telepathy, but it's like a little bit more. It's similar to dolphins as well. But I find elephants also in that same
Yeah.
category.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like it's just I guess we're looking at it from a limited point of view. Like it's not just dogs seeing in black and white or, spectrums of gray, just like how they say now insects see in like UV. And it's like they actually get a more colorful, more, I guess, almost like a DMT version of the world compared to us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. Yeah. Well, do you think that that's why, like people always say we aren't going to see craft unless they want us to see it, right? But I agree. But I also feel like when we're widening that depth and perception, now we're able to see their what the dimension that they're connected to. So it kind of works both ways. So if we can raise our consciousness enough and see more and we're in a higher frequency, then we're going to see a lot more craft in the sky and someone next to us may not see it, or we'll see the fairies or whatever it might be. I mean, do you think that as well?
Yeah, so I look at it from two ways. I look at it from the spiritual perspective, and not everyone's ready to see it. I've been in groups where we've had nighttime and daytime activity, and there's certain people that won't see the craft that's literally like right there in the sky. And it's not always. Most of the groups will usually see it, but every now and then you'll just get one or two people that are, maybe dragged along by a partner, and they're not really,
Right.
open to
Yeah,
it.
that happens a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has a lot to do with being open, but also like from the physical anatomy, which I really go deep into with the How to See Auras course. A lot of it's to do with our peripheral vision. So we have these cones and rods that are in the eyes. And what I find with people that are more sensitive or that are more, what I would say have like synesthesia, where you get like a blending or a multitude of the senses as like one organ, which a lot of, psychics and mystics and
Yeah.
people that are, I guess, considered oracles will have this kind of multitude of senses coming through, which is
Mhm.
more how the animals work too.
Right.
It's more, I think that our cones and the rods are more active to pick up the flash of light out the corner of the eyes. And so even like for, people listening at home, if they're seeing the flashes or they're seeing or sensing something, even just to like note that in your brain and say, oh, I did see that flash. What happens if you start to build like a new neural network, and then you're actually strengthening those psychic pathways in the brain so that you're going to take in, your brain's going to say, this is vital information. Let me know when there's another flash. So I think it's something that we can always expand and grow upon. It's like, where you place your attention, that's like where the energy goes to.
Yeah. That was a spectacular way of explaining it. Like, wonderful job. Great job. I loved it. Let's talk about auras then. Like, what is like I know everyone watching this knows what an aura is, but maybe from your perspective, like we could just get into that in your work and maybe when did you start seeing auras and all of that? Like, how did that happen for you?
Yeah, so for me, I was lucky that I had, I guess, a little, spiritual team around me. So even when I was in kindergarten, I remember my guide saying to me, don't talk about this stuff with everyone. Not everyone's going to understand it. It'll be perceived as like crazy. Or I remember feeling like if you talk about it, you'll get locked up in a crazy home. And I didn't
Oh,
understand as like 4 or 5 years old what that meant, but I just knew that it was, yeah, that I was sort of living, I guess, in a different spectrum of reality. But, being aware of this sort of thing since a kid, I just thought that I was going to continue to grow the rest of my life and just not have people to talk to or connect with about it. And I'm so glad that I was wrong in that way
yeah.
because, you just get used to going about seeing these things by yourself. But that's what I love about the internet is that it's brought all of us together and,
Yeah.
it leads to gorgeous conversations like this. So yeah, with the, I guess the seeing of the auras, it's something that for me is a language. So color speaks to me, and probably why I've put so much effort and energy into the packaging for the potions because I really, it's a motive. It's a language. So I I really developed like being in college in natural medicine. My teacher encouraged me. She's like, anything you see, just like let me know. So it wasn't really till I got to get involved with kinesiology, and I had a beautiful practitioner that helped me through dyslexia when I was younger. And he said to my parents, he's like, she's actually really psychic. She should, you should get her to have some guidance or some teaching around that. My parents are like, no, no, no. When she's finished high school, so I chose to go into college and study all of that because I'm like, this is the first kind of foot in the water to being immersed in a group of people that understand that, colors and, seeing all these different things, that it's not just imagination. So I had a really beautiful, encouraging teacher. And so for me, I would just sort of note when I saw different colors what feeling I was getting, or where it would sort of take me. But depending on the placement of where the colors are situated in the aura will tell you something totally different. So for example, if you've got, oh, I'll give an example of something sort of like more normal and then maybe something a little bit deeper, because we are shifting aurically as we get into the age of Aquarius. There's things I've never seen before that are transforming and happening in people's energy fields. And if we can think about the energy field being, if we think about, the state of plasma that exists in like 99.8%, I think, of the air or space around us, and we think about the quantum field, our aura is like interacting, resonating, or, getting in and out of frequency alignment with different things. So when we look into the aura, it's that stepping down closer to the physical. So we can sort of see maybe what someone's, feeling or sort of tapped into, or things that they might be about to start to tap into. Because like a little future, I guess, photo or vision with that. But yeah, say if we see like a lot of a deeper yellow color around someone's mental body, this might mean that they're more kind of like led by the intellect, or they're more kind of analytical, or they're perhaps like stuck even in, overthinking. And perhaps it can help us to, talk to them about opening up that emotional field, or even like look into things. Sometimes you'll have with overactivity, there might be ADHD or different things that are also linked in. So that's sort of an example just of like yellow in a mental body. But say if it was yellow that was more in the spiritual field, it might be about tapping into higher education and information that's coming in on a spiritual level. So it could mean something totally different
Okay.
instead of just like your book's kind of knowledge. But what I am seeing is like double layers and bands of gold in people's auras. And with that, there's a way that our brain's going from being like a computer-based hard drive, in that we're more tapping in and channeling, I guess, like downloading from the cloud. So there's a forgetfulness of walking into a room and just thinking, what was I walking into the room for? So usually when I see a double layer of gold in someone's aura, they'll have those same things playing out, but they're also expanding their awareness and tapping into just having ideas and inspiration or messages pop in for people in their lives too. So yeah, it's really cool to see that things are shifting and changing. There is more of a plasma charge that I'm also seeing in people's auras that are starting to, there's like a different kind of energy people are building with this spiritual shift.
Wow, that's fascinating. I go into the cabinet probably 3 times a day, the multi-purpose room, and I literally walk out and I'm just like, I don't know why I walked in there. It's like so frustrating. That happens to me on a daily basis. And now I just laugh, but I actually had a question here for you that about gold auras. Um, I don't really see auras, but when I close my eyes and I work on somebody, I can assess their energy field. So I work a little bit differently. Everybody has their own technique.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't teach people how to read auras and stuff because I don't really, that's not really my area of expertise. But it's interesting because I would say in the last probably 7 years, 6 years before I moved here in a couple years, so like 6 years, I have had clients, male, female, various ages, who have never seen an aura before. Literally, it's they're telling me, 2 people, 3 people, 3 of those people said that they were watching me on stage giving a presentation. And one was in, I did hypnosis on him. When he woke up, he like was like, I see differently now, not because of me. I'm not taking credit, but like his perception was shifted at the moment. And every single one of those people said to me, you have the most amazing golden aura around you. All I see is gold. I don't see any other color. And they're strangers, different parts of the country, like, and I'm like, I've heard that so many times, and it's always gold. And I'm like, what does that mean? But I just never really had anybody to ask before.
Oh, that's so cool that you have the gold too. So
Uh,
I remember seeing a Tibetan Buddhist monk that was a medicine monk, and he was just giving a little bit of a lecture and doing a prayer. And I remember his aura was so gold, and it was like gold glitter. I actually rubbed my eyes because the energy was really coming into this physical dimension. And I saw the lady next to me, she's doing the same. And I'm like, can you see the gold too? So for me, I always associate that gold with someone that has like a higher spiritual development. But when the way that people were describing it around you, which I do see the gold, but you also have this gorgeous pink and sort of like indigo violet around you as well, which is the spiritual energy, it's the heart energy. And sometimes you'll see it like defined in certain boxes or certain sort of energy bodies. It's like you've got a mixture of it flowing everywhere, which is beautiful.
yeah.
But yeah, so with the gold, it usually is someone that does bring medicine to the world, or they bring their spiritual gifts and they're in tune with it. But it is also sometimes it's someone that's an open channel.
Yeah, interesting. I just think it's so
Yeah.
cool that like no these people, none of them have ever seen auras before, and they're like, this is the first time I've ever seen an aura, and it was so like vibrant and gold, and I'm like, well, that's cool. That's so
And
yeah.
even the way that you're seeing it though, like, closing your eyes and feeling and sensing energy, because we see it from the rods and cones, like our peripheral vision, but we also see it from our third eye, with that activation of the pineal gland too. So there's two different ways we can pick up and see auras. So you'll actually get like a crossover of senses too. When you focus on it, you'll be able to do it from both ways. But I do find the 3D, like from the pineal, that's more sort of like the developed version of it. So we can sort of tap in and out of both, or we might see a flash and close our eyes and tap in to see like the expanded version of that.
I love that you said that. That makes a lot of sense, and I think that is happening where the 3D might be a little bit limited, but then when you close your eyes, that's how I see. I close my eyes and I see everything that I need to see, I guess. But it's more limited when you look through that 3D aspect of it. I think
Yeah,
a lot of
a
people,
lot of distraction, I
yeah.
think, when we're looking from the
Yeah.
3D.
Yeah, right? Um, wow, this is so fascinating. You also do tarot readings, right, Solreta?
Yeah, yeah. So in my sessions with clients, so I think the most popular one, I do a galactic reading where we
Mhm.
look into various different starseed aspects of where someone's come through from, where they've had, because I look at it in that we're not just like in a linear lifetime, where, multidimensional beings that are living perhaps like, in Pleiades or Sirius and Earth
Mhm.
all at the same time. So it's like a Doctor Strange
Right.
Marvel
Yeah,
movie
yeah.
come true. But yeah, my most popular one I would say is probably a mystical oracle session. So each type of reading I do, we do an aura drawing, and I draw exactly what I see. Then Spirit talks about it. We pick cards on it, and what's amazing is what Spirit's usually talked about. Almost the exact images will sometimes come out in the tarot. So I just find that it's like we can blend all these things together. And the way that Spirit talks to me about it is that it's as humans, we can't just tap in or like get messages downloaded, but it's like we're very visual creatures. So to be able to have that visual, I guess, not synchronicity, I guess confirmation would be the word. It really just helps us to be able to understand it with our logical minds and to take more interest in what's being said. But yeah, we look into, I guess, people's different paths. I work on the 3D and on the multidimensional aspect. So I'll work from anything from relationship things to, career, right up into working with people that are having abduction experiences or astral travel type things, or wanting to enhance communication, with guides and things. So every day is a different day, which I love. And having read for thousands of people, I love it that there'll be some synchronicities that show up. So I'm always learning too. I might see something totally new. And then, over a few weeks or even over the space of a year, certain clients will be drawn and they'll have the same things in the aura, or they'll be going through the same things. So I get to really see how humanity is growing and expanding on a collective consciousness level.
Beautiful. I learn exactly the same way. My clients, I get more sometimes. I feel like out of the sessions with my clients, because I just learned so much from it, from them, and then I like to share it. And that's exactly what you're talking about, this expanded consciousness that we all have it on some level. It's just about the ability to tap into it. And right now, I think we're tapping into it so much more. And the exposure, which is why I was inspired to have this talk with you today, because as you and I were chatting right before we recorded, one of the things that is frustrating me lately is just everywhere I go on social media, or just anywhere, it's just it feels really negative. A lot of people are complaining, a lot of channels are, just talking about the same dark things over and over and just perpetuating and amplifying and keeping energy connected to it. And I just don't have any interest for that. I really want to talk about things that are forward thinking and innovative and that's helpful and can inspire people. And are you seeing a trend in your sessions right now of like, well, I'll just say that. Are you seeing a trend in your sessions right now with regard to like uh the collective awakening and evidence of that in people's lives?
Yeah, and I'm lucky that I guess, especially over the lockdown period, because we had like the world's longest lockdown here in Melbourne.
Yeah,
I really saw, yeah, it was an interesting time to work as a reader because we saw a lot of people shifting and changing at quite a rapid rate. And so it was like being the boots on the ground to like hold space for people going through psychic awakening. So I've seen like a lot of that, or a lot of people starting to see things, and sometimes we're here as guides to be like it's normal, like to be that reassuring presence. So there's a lot of
yeah,
like holding space. And as you were saying, like the uplifting aspect, I sometimes will get clients just book in because they feel like they need a bit of redirection to the positive, or like an uplifting energy,
right.
just to kind of like get back on track. So I'm seeing a bit more of that at the moment, but also I'm seeing a few. I don't have the pictures right here because I've got my stack of pictures packed away, but yeah, figure eights, especially over the heart. There's a lot of like heart activation, and a lot of like on a multidimensional level where our hearts are actually expanding as a consciousness field. So I think that we're going to be shifting away from just at the analytical, mental, analyzing aspect that our brains have worked with, but it's also about like tapping in and starting to open and expand and work with that heart consciousness. And that's the one that we'll be using when it comes to, I guess, this utopia energy and the new earth. We're going to be so plugged in as a community through this heart space. And I so resonate with what you said that, with a lot of channels sort of being more to the dark or the propaganda side of things. And there's a lot of like, I guess, astral loosh energy feeding that happens around those little environments, or swimming pools, I guess, if we look at it as a
Yeah, some
pool of.
people.
That
Yeah,
was just the vision I had.
yeah,
So, with my clients, I'm so lucky that they're already in like a really high developed place. So it's not that we're really having to do much to get them out of, I guess, darker places or anything. It's
yeah.
really just like expanding or helping them to tap into things that are sitting there, or gifts and tools that they have access to. But it's maybe giving them like that key, or that like connecting factor, or that little tip or tool that spirit will drop in to help them like shift into the next level. I guess we would call it like quantum jumping, would be another way of looking at it. But I'm also seeing, I call it like a rose gold copper color. And it's not a color that we have on the earth spectrum here. But if we think about, I guess, like a Mac computer that's like a rose gold sort of beautiful tone,
Yeah.
that would be as close as like oracly that I could describe what I'm seeing with people. It doesn't come up very often. I first saw it back in the early 2000s,
Mhm.
come in at a Unity of the Tribes gathering where there was Australian Aboriginal elders, New Zealand Maori elders, and Native American elders. And there was ceremony that was held here in Victoria. And at the end, with the unity of the tribes coming together, there's this beautiful rose gold copper energy that formed over everyone's head in the circle. So around 1,000 people,
Wow.
and a double rainbow appeared. And my friend and I actually decided to follow it because you could see the end of the rainbow on the ground, which they say is not possible. There
Yeah.
was a family of 5 kangaroos just eating grass in the bottom of this rainbow. We got within probably about 6 feet away from them, which was just, it was majestic just watching these kangaroos in this rainbow. This was back before we had cameras on the phones. So unfortunately, I didn't have a photo of them. But what I saw that moment was that rose gold copper for the first time. I'm seeing that come up more and more in sessions, not very often, but it
Okay.
usually represents someone has a soul mission that's connected with bringing the tribes back together and bringing us back to Mother Earth and to nature. I'm just getting goosebumps
Me
talking about
too.
it. Yeah. So yeah,
Wow,
that's some of the things that I've seen, I guess, over the last, couple of years, as well as this double gold in the aura.
that's
But yeah, certain people
fascinating.
have plasma fields in their aura. What I find is certain kinds of like healing technology magnets will produce different auric fields. So sometimes I've seen things I've never seen before, and I keep feeling like a device or some kind of technology. And the person will be like, "Oh yeah, like this is my this is like the device I'm using." So I can sometimes see that certain pendants or certain kind of devices will enhance or work even with the chakras in the aura.
Wow. This is like such a fascinating conversation. I wish I had someone to talk like this to all the time. It's so fun. It's something you mentioned too, and I haven't really talked about this publicly much. It just hasn't come up. But I'm curious what you think about this. But I've had several sessions years ago with for a while I was attracting a bunch of Aboriginal ancestry in my sessions. And kangaroos were coming up a lot. And I was told that several times in different ways that kangaroos, much like the Sasquatch, were once human, and instead of being interdimensional, which they are, that's not the right word. They are interdimensional, but instead of us not being able to see them, instead of them reclusing into a higher dimension like Bigfoot, for example, or Sasquatch, they have remained present to be guardians of the land in Australia, to guard portals and to do grid work. So they're human, but they're not, and they're guardians. And like, I was just so fascinated by all of that. Like, I'm sure you know more than I do about that.
I
Maybe.
hadn't
I don't
heard
know. Do you
about
know
it.
anything like that? Have you heard that before?
I hadn't heard that perspective, which is really interesting, especially when you see some of the giant red kangaroos that are like, really buff and muscly. I
Yeah.
know our friend John DiMartino, we send each other like kangaroo videos of the muscly ones that are like
Yeah.
boxing each other. But yeah, so one of my friends, who's an elder over here, he said that when we're shifting, I guess, into this utopia world that we know is coming, he said that we won't be able to look at a kangaroo and think about like taking a leg and like putting it on the barbecue or anything like that. He said that the kangaroos are our brothers and our sisters, and so we'll come back into a conscious telepathic form of communication with them. So from what he's sort of said, it's like they are our brothers and sisters. But yeah, I hadn't heard that version, what you described, which is so interesting, because I do see them more at portal areas. And it's funny because you'll see there's a certain mountain that I like to go to that has a beautiful sacred river. And there's certain like energy vortex points and a really special tree where the river energy runs up to the hill through this tree that's growing abnormally compared to the type of tree it is. It's supposed to be really tall, but instead it's growing really wide. So you can tell there's like vortex energy there, as well as over here, we look for trees that have their bark spinning around to the left are the female trees, and that's how you know where water is underground. So this place has like a lot of magical things, that the kangaroos will quite often be drawn to this place. And you notice if there's people walking on the walking track up ahead that are not sort of like in their body or not kind of like as conscious, or they're like a bit louder and maybe a little bit erratic energy, the kangaroos will usually shift out the way. But if you're going there consciously and you're also sort of more in that heart space, they tend to stay, and they're just sort of more peaceful. But there's always one of the bigger male kangaroos that'll stand up and he's like looking around, keeping out an eye for danger. So we call it a mob of kangaroos. So they're very protective of the mob. And it's just beautiful to watch the way that they nurture, and they all look out for the little ones too. So they are like, I guess, not quite human, but they have human aspects just like we do in terms of how they look after their families.
Well, and even just like the birth and how small they are and how like they're very closely related to humans in that like their young would not survive. Like you can't just
Yeah.
give birth and take off and they would survive just like a human baby. It can't even move. So uh it just there's so many similarities that I just felt like, gosh, they could be our ancestors in some way that chose to be more primal, more animal instinctive to not have a human experience like us, but to be more protectors and guardians. So I just find that so fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to look at it from a different perspective next time I go to that place.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a lot of questions for them.
Well, when I come visit you, which I will at some point, now we've put it out there. I'll have to go and see them. I worked at a zoo for 10 years, and I'm a big animal person, and
Ah,
I never
that's amazing. I didn't know that. I'm going
yeah.
to have to ask you a whole heap of questions.
Yeah, I have a lot of stories. And the two animals that I've never worked with that I really wanted to were kangaroos and polar bears. They're the only two species that I've never had a chance to work with, and I always wanted. And I just so I'll have to go to Australia, not to work with them in that capacity, but to just to be around their energy and tap in, much like you're talking about, because I think that they have a story, and I think
Yeah,
that a lot of my focus is animals, and the book I'm writing right now is called Healing the Human Animal Bond. And there are a lot of guardian animals around the world, the dolphins, the whales, the elephants, the horses, the bats, kangaroos. And so I believe that there are certain species kind of specifically placed in areas for a purpose, to do what it is that they're here to do, which I talk about in the book. So I'm always interested in animals. I know they have
oh,
a story.
oh my gosh, I've got so many questions for you. I love that topic. It's just, I love animals as well. Even like with the cockatoos that we have
Love
here,
cockatoos.
there's just, when you talk about the bird tribes over here in Australia and you get the perspective from the elders, you find out like the ravens will have certain tail feathers pulled out for like the whole family member of one tribe. And that's how they identify each other. Whereas like if they're in a different tribe, they'll have a different wing feather or a tail feather pulled out. And,
Yeah.
they have marriages, they hold court. The cockatoo that we saw here before, after someone passes in Aboriginal culture, in the older traditional ways, a cockatoo would appear and do a particular dance exactly 1 year after the day that someone's
Hmm.
passed. So, yeah, and they talk about that, you don't see dead ones in the wild. So even though we know a cockatoo can live for, I think it's like 100 years or 130 years, they talk about in the wild that they might live even longer because it's very rare to come across one, I guess, before cars came around, that you
Yeah.
would see in the wild. So there is some kind of, whether it's an interdimensional aspect or a spiritual world aspect that they have to them. Yes, I love that topic. I can't wait to read your book.
Well, I love cockatoos. I grew up with a an umbrella cockatoo, and a blue and gold macaw.
Oh,
So they were like my buddies. I mean, they would just go all they're amazing. They'll go walk around the house with you, sit on your bed, like climb up the stairs, like trying to find me. Like they're so amazing. I love birds. They're
they're
incredible.
so intelligent.
They're so intelligent and they have such personalities. I mean, all animals have a personality. That's why this topic gets me going, because not only do people think they can't see, but that they're low in the hierarchy and they have no soul, and they're stupid. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like you guys have it all wrong. If anything, we are learning from them. They're so much
Yeah.
more advanced than us. They have personalities. They are just they hold so much knowledge and there's so much wisdom. It's incredible. Oh, we should just do a whole other
I
video
so
on
agree.
animals.
Definitely, I would love that. And I can't wait to have you on my channel as well. There's so many questions that I need to ask you.
Yeah. Well, I just glanced at the time right when I said that it was 555. So that's a good number there. Um, okay. Well, your book, you have a book, Soul Star, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Tell
that
us
one's
about
a
your
it's
book.
an older one now. That was from a workshop that I taught. Oh my gosh. Let me see. I'm counting by the age of my kids. It's probably about it's probably like 18, 20 years old, that
Okay.
workshop that I converted into the book. But my newest book would be I've done 33 recipes of like raw vegan smoothies and desserts.
Oh,
So that Yeah, so that one, I think it was maybe last year or the
What's
year
that
before I
called?
released. So it's just called Soul Bowls and Smoothies. So it's
Okay.
got a really beautiful smoothie bowl that I made on the front, and I look at food as medicine, and I look at it in terms of, not just expanding on our health, but also looking into brain power and things. And because I'm a bit of a geek for like the neurology side and how we can enhance or how we can sort of biohack, but I also want food to taste good too.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a foodie. Well, it's funny. I can't tell you how many sessions I've had with people that like beings come here from all over the galaxies to eat our food. I mean, it's a real thing. It's not a joke. It's not false information. It's not a conspiracy. Like a lot of them just want to enjoy and indulge because many don't eat food at all. Many of them just drink liquids. Many of them have certain like pellets that have all the nutrients, so they don't really have like they don't have that taste element, and so they love to indulge in our food. And I certainly am a foodie. I like I like to eat a lot of different things
Me
too,
too.
so I take advantage.
Oh, yeah. No, me too. Oh, you would love it over here. We're definitely a food-based culture, and especially Melbourne, it's like the multicultural food capital of the world. We just have cuisines from all different nations.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. Oh my goodness. Well, Solreta, tell me or tell I mean, I'll put all this in the description, but what are the best ways people can find you, your potions, your books, and have sessions with you where they can you have an online scheduler, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Soul Alchemy Potions, spelled Soul, is where you can find the potions. And then my website is solreta.com. And that'll also link over to Maison Jupiter because my bookings are coming from Maison Jupiter at the moment. But my website does have a lot of information. But yeah, you'll find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of the
Awesome.
different platforms.
I will put all your links because I think you're amazing. And
Oh,
this we'll have to do a few more with specific topics in mind, one of which will be animals. And I'll come on your channel as well. And so much good things that we can put out into the world right now that people need to hear or to be inspired or that's kind of what my focus is right now and my intention. So I'm so glad that you came on with me today. Any last words or anything else you want to say to the audience before we finish up for the day?
yeah, I'm just getting a download around doing a lot of dream work. Spirit's just like dropping that in for some reason. But I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a fun conversation. And yeah, I can't wait to interview you and talk about different topics. But yeah, just as far as like download, I feel like Spirit's telling us that we keep getting the message. It's all about like waking up within the dream at the moment. So the more that we can consciously like grab at information that Spirit's trying to feed us through dreams, I keep seeing it's like little stepping stones where we can go in and out of different dimensions as well.
Oh,
So they're really just trying to help teach us to navigate. They keep showing me it's like they're trying to help us find our feet and navigate through the dream world. And they keep showing me it's almost like there's a merging or a blending. It's in preparation for the shift that if we can adapt and we can learn how to, I guess, yeah, be in more than one state of consciousness or realize like when we're shifting through the different states, they're just talking about that being really important to focus on. So I don't know why, but that's the message
oh,
that Spirit was just
we just
showing.
talked about dreams. Like honestly, that's such a great topic because I feel like more and more people are having vivid dreams like more than they've ever before and more lucid dreams even where they're laying awake in bed before they go to sleep or right before when they're in the morning when they're getting out of bed or before like in that in between and they're getting downloads, they're seeing things, they're connecting more to their dreams, and I think that it is very much our way to connect to that multidimensionality that we are and kind of in that semi-hypnotic state. So I love that you said that because it's so true.
Yeah, and I think that's just going to help prepare us for, for things to come. And I think there's a lot of, I know sometimes I'll get kind of like warnings in dreams, not things that are, affecting on a personal level, not always. Sometimes it'll be just sort of like a heads up in where humanity's going or shifting. Yeah, so I guess that's that final message, like to pay attention to the dreams and to, learn how to navigate these multidimensional spaces. But thank you so much for having me on. It was so much fun to finally meet you in person or semi-person
Yeah,
in
I
the virtual
as
world.
as in person as you can get without seeing each other. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, Sarita, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you to everybody watching. I really hope that this was inspiring and uplifting, because that's what our intention was today. So if and I mean, who is it? Like, how, I don't know how anyone can watch us when there's these beautiful cockatoos in the background and chickens, because I'm even distracted. There's one right there right now. So gorgeous. Let's just take a second so we can admire that beautiful bird.
Yeah.
That's what mine looked like, exactly the
See
same,
how he
with the yellow, like what they call it, umbrella.
Oh,
Uh,
the crest. Yeah.
crest. Yeah.
And this one, he's one that I call a watcher. See how he's looking, turning his head. So there's two that are kind of watchers in about a tribe of 13 that we have that locally visit. And it's really funny. You get them just along the roof line with their head upside down. And sometimes I'm sitting here and I feel someone watching me and they're trying to like psychically tap you on the shoulder. And I look up and there's a head just like smiling, looking in. And when I'm doing sessions with clients, every now and then you'll have one just intensely energetically focused. They'll come right up to the window and peck on the window, trying to get our attention. So they're so psychically tuned
Oh
in.
my gosh, that is a dream. Like that would never get old for me to look out and see them. I would never take that for
Oh,
granted. That's so amazing.
it's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, I have like blue jays. I have a lot of blue jays because I have on the other side of this, I have a window and I have a huge forest behind me, behind our house, and I always have blue jays, and they'll come, and I swear sometimes they'll come right up to my window and just like go like this and stuff like that. We have a lot of blue jays and hawks
Oh,
and things like that, but no cockatoos. That's pretty cool.
oh.
That's
Well,
cool.
I love it when I go to different places, how the birds are different. It's
Yeah.
always so interesting to see.
Yeah. Oh,
That
I
sounds
admire that
magic.
wildlife. They're amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, see you guys soon.